So I'm now about 6 months into using the medical ketogenic diet and metabolic therapies in an effort to treat and manage my schizoaffective disorder. And I've shared a lot about how generally successful it's been and how much my life has kind of improved, or my experience of the illness and symptoms that I experienced for so long has improved greatly. I'm also down to the lowest dose I've ever been on of psychiatric medications. I'm on 20 milligrams of lorazepam, which is the lowest it goes. And so over the next few months, going to be working on figuring out how to most effectively and most safely keep going down from there. So, the last 6 months, I've been steadily kind of improving and feeling really good. But for the last few weeks, or maybe a couple weeks, I've been going through a phase of not really feeling as good. And a lot of that had to do with withdrawal, going down on my medication from 40 milligrams to 20 milligrams, which I learned a little bit in hindsight was probably too big of a drop. And I definitely struggled with symptoms of withdrawal that I talked about in other videos. But I think it's going maybe a bit beyond that too, where I'm struggling a little bit more. And before you jump at me and say, see, I told you it wouldn't work and you would relapse, or whatever was said at the beginning of this project, I really don't think that that's what's happening. I'm quite aware that I've become complacent in a lot of realms to do with this medical intervention. So what I mean by this is, for one, I stopped tracking a few months ago, stopped meticulously tracking and weighing everything that I ate and putting it into the app Chronometer to find out the exact macros and stuff. And that was feeling good. And I think it is probably still the right choice, but it means that I'm not always exactly aware of how much carbohydrates I'm consuming in a day or in a meal or at any given time. Now, when I say that out loud, that I have no idea how much carbs and stuff I'm eating, that does sound a little bit reckless. But to qualify that, I'm eating all of the stuff that I learned in the first 4 months, or however long I was tracking food for, what I could eat. And I kind of roughly know what the macros of the stuff that I'm continuing to eat are. And I generally know that it's in line with what I need to hit macro-wise. But you never know, sometimes carbs could be creeping up in amounts and things that I wouldn't necessarily think were carby. And so perhaps maybe focusing a little bit more on that and maybe going more towards tracking too might be of benefit. But kind of in conjunction with that, I haven't been tracking my ketones as much anymore, or measuring my ketones. I don't really know why. I think just because for so long they were so high, and I kind of got into this space where I'm like, well, I don't really need to worry about that anymore. And so perhaps those ketone levels are slipping a little bit without me even being aware of that. And so to kind of address both these things, I'm really going to try to be more regimented in terms of measuring my ketone levels with the Keto Mojo, the blood measurement. We stocked up a few months ago and people told me they expire, so got to get through those anyway. So I will be testing a lot more with those. And I think I'm actually going to start using the continuous ketone monitor as well, just so that I have a really good idea of what the foods I'm eating are doing to my ketone levels in real time, so that maybe I can still avoid needing to go back to meticulously tracking and still have a good idea of what meals or foods I'm eating are affecting my ketones and how. Now, maybe just to qualify what I said about having stopped tracking, I don't really mean that I just don't track anymore. I don't measure my ketones. I just mean that I went from measuring in multiple different ways many, many times a day at the beginning of this project to measuring maybe once every day or maybe once every other day. And while this is probably okay at some point in my journey, I think while especially I'm working on reducing medications, it really needs to be a more meticulous process, or I guess a more regimented process that I'm attacking with the same rigor, I guess, as the beginning of this experiment or project. One of the ways that I've been feeling not great is having kind of more brain fogginess and more lethargy and less energy. And that's resulted in me doing things like napping during the day, or not going out for runs as much as I typically would, or getting enough exercise in, which are, impacting other forms of metabolic therapies that I was really trying to work on and adhere to at the beginning of the project. I think also going into the summer months, I'm pretty far north, so the sun sets now at 11 p.m. at night. And so I think that increased daylight has kind of made me want to stay up later. Kids' sports go until late at night, and I want some downtime before I go to bed. Anyway, multiple reasons as to why my bedtime has kind of been creeping later and later. And I'm starting to really kind of put the pieces together and understand that that is, I think, greatly impacting the state of my mental health. And so sleep is something that I'm really kind of going to put my head down a little bit and work really hard on getting more stability or more routine with in general. Getting to bed at the same time every night, trying to wake up at the same time every morning, no napping, and getting back into a good schedule to support my mental and metabolic health. I think maybe an element that has been at play in terms of me kind of leaning more into a more lackadaisical approach to this is perhaps an underlying feeling that I am healed of my mental illness, and the fact that I don't really deal with any of the symptoms or difficulties that are as much of the difficulties as I used to face has kind of led me into the mindset of I'm cured. I don't need to be as diligent anymore. And yeah, I think I've gotten a little bit more complacent. I think that actually several people who are farther along than me on their own keto journeys for their mental health or for whatever reason kind of warned me at the beginning of the process that I might hit a period like that where I felt I don't need this medical intervention anymore and I can loosen the grip on the reins and yeah. And perhaps there will come a time where I can loosen that grip a little bit where, I'm metabolically in a better place and I can loosen the grip a little bit more, but I think right now it's still pretty fresh. I'm really only 6 months in, and I'm trying to reduce my psychiatric medication or even get off of my psychiatric medication. And so I think I'm realizing now that I need to continue being really regimented and rigorous in my approach to this medical intervention. So I titled this video, I Need to Be More Careful. And while no, I'm not exactly completely messing up this medical intervention and I'm still working really hard on it, I think there just needs to be an understanding on my part that this is kind of moving into taking the place of medication. And just like with medication where you need to be really regimented and take the exact same dose every day, and that routine or that, practice of doing that is really important in terms of maintaining stability and well-being. Well, this just the same as medication is a medical intervention that needs to be taken really seriously and meticulously upkept. And that perhaps is a little bit harder than just taking pills every day at the same time, once a day, whereby it is more every single choice you make in a day about your lifestyle, what you eat, your sleep, your physical activity, all of these different things that impact your mental or metabolic health are really kind of a bit of a juggling act, really, in terms of making sure you're paying attention to all of these different important facets of maintaining metabolic health. And so I just thought it was important to share that it's not like it's a big hiccup or anything, but I did hit a little bit of a hiccup in my journey in terms of my mentality or, my approach or the headspace that I'm in terms of this. And I think that this little period of feeling less well, I'm still not experiencing full-blown symptoms of my illness or anything like that. I'm just not feeling my best. And so it really kind of has brought my attention more to the fact that I need to keep really, really trying hard at this and really trying hard to stay on top of all of the things that I need to stay on top of, mainly what I'm eating, my ketone levels, my sleep, my physical activity. And those are kind of the big things that I need to be really focusing on, making really solid routine for myself right now around. So thank you as always for watching, and thank you so much for following along on this journey and for all of the support I've gotten along the way. It means a lot. Thanks so much again. And as always, wishing you and your loved ones good health. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.